Hey everyone, Dave here. In this video, I want to try and finish off our NEP-5 token here and implement the optional transferFrom method. So the transferFrom method allows our trustee to send accounts or send funds from the approver's account to anyone. So let's get going with that here. So the first thing we're going to want to check is make sure that they are who they say they are. Make sure the witness is the actual trustee, and I'll just copy and paste a little bit and return false. False. Speaking of failure, I can't type out failure. Now we're going to want to make sure that they also are trying to send an amount that they are approved to do. So let's say approved amount equals approval. Sorry, it's allowance. Approver trustee. So that is the amount that they are allowed to do on our behalf here. If approve amount is greater than the, sorry, a little bit backwards today here. Amount is greater than the approved amount. I'm just going to rename this to be approved amount. We're going to fail this here. We can put in here something like amount failure if we want here, or allowance failure. If that is done, so we know that the person is who they say they are here, we know that they're not exceeding the allowance limit that was set, we should be able just to do our transfer. And we already have a function to do that called perform transfer that takes where the funds are coming from, which is the approver, where they're going to, which is the to, and the amount. Now this is going to return back already true or false here, so I'm going to put a variable in here called transfer success. Now if the transfer success completes, we are going to want to update our allowance. So let's just go look at the approval function here. Where is that approve? Just because I want to steal that here. Approved amount minus amount. So if the transfer succeeds, we're going to want to decrement the allowance, right? So if they're approved to deal with 10 tokens, they do a transfer from of 1. The new allowance for that trustee will be 9. There's nothing that says that you have to do it this way, but it kind of makes sense, right? Saying, you know, instead of just saying, well, you're allowed to move 10 at a time, you could eventually drain someone's account. Whereas if we say we're just allowing a hard limit of 10 no matter how many transactions you do. So, and then we'll return true. If the transfer was not successful, then we're just going to return false. So we're pretty close except for one problem with this, and that is within this perform transfer. So within the perform transfer, we do this check witness to make sure that the caller of this code is the from account. And in this case, if we step back a little bit up to here, the perform transfer who's invoking this method is not the account that we're taking the funds and moving them out of. It's the trustee that is calling this function here. So we're going to have to do a little rework here. And there's a few ways we could do this here. We could add an argument on to perform transfer saying whether or not to do this check, which is a valid way to do it. What I am going to do is go up here though, and in the transfer function, before it runs perform transfer, I'm going to do that check. And we're going to call this one from. So perform transfer is now a method that does not check the witness of the caller. So anything that calls this now, the responsibility lies with them. So before we get into it here, we call it. And then when we do transfer from, we're also checking that. Okay, and we should also put in a few other checks in here. As you've probably seen us do a lot now, is just checking our inputs. So let's go trustee, approver, to and let's check the amount as well. Amount is less than or equal to 0. Invalid amount. So perform transfer is already going to do that check. So that's kind of up to you to say, well, should we check the amount here or should we let it be delegated into here? Because here we're really doing the same check twice. So, and we're actually checking the lengths of these twice, because I bet you perform transfer will check those as well. So we could start moving some of this validation out if we wanted to. And we could put it up in here saying, well, let's check all these arguments passed in and do that validation here or there. Again, more of a personal style thing. Okay. With that being done, I think we are ready to do a build and see if this will run. One thing I want to add onto here that I like to do in methods is if it does get through all of these methods here and does not find a match, it just returns false, but you don't really know why it failed. So I like to put a runtime.notify in here saying could not find action. So that'll put something to the notify window stating, you know what, I couldn't figure out what to do here. Okay, let's build and deploy this. Not invoke, deploy. I forgot to copy my script hash here. And I did it again, it looks like here. Let me just load that up. Okay, C P1, okay. Now we got to do some work with that, and it still isn't even ready. There we go. So first thing I need to do now is deploy the contract so that the owner gets their tokens. And I need to also approve a third party here. So I'm going to do my approve. The first parameter to approve is is my account right now that I'm running from, which is this one here. And the second parameter is our trustee. So I put in the trustee's address. And then the third parameter here is what we're authorizing them to be able to do. So I'm going to say 10 plus 2 decimal places, 1, 2. Okay, that is fine. Invoke that. So I'm going to add this to my NEP-5 contract list here so that I can see the assets that I have here in a visual way. There we go, there's 1,000 there. So now I'm going to switch wallets to my trustee here. And I'm logged in. This is this may be because I'm running a little bit of an older version of the NeoGUI developers. It's not updating the balances when switching wallets. A rebuild of the index will fix that. So, but that does take some time. So it does not show any of the tutorial token because I don't have any right now. So here we should be able to invoke the contract. So that was this CDC one here. transferFrom gets invoked. So this one is going to take a few parameters here. So the first one is ourself. The second one is the account that we're dealing with. So this is who approved us to move the funds. The third one is going to be the destination. And for this case here, I'm going to send this to myself. So it's going to take the funds out of this E9 EED and transfer it into FB29. And we have to pass in an amount. So let us just do 5. So it didn't fail or crash or anything like that. And let's see if what we get for output messages and see if we did this right the first time. Come on, one more block. There we go. So there was a transfer method invoked. So if I look at my asset here, now I do have 5 of the tokens. And if I switch back here, you'll see that here this balance has been deducted by 5. And there we go. We could query the allowance. We'll see that it's been dropped down from 10 now down to 5. You can do that as part of your testing. But that's it. That is implementing the last of the methods, this transferFrom here. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. Things I know went fairly smoothly when it's done in a video. The first time I wrote one of these tokens, I ran into so many stumbling blocks of things the compiler didn't do or weird little gotchas and trying to figure out how to debug things. So it can take hours and hours and hours, and I spent days and days and days doing this. So don't get frustrated, don't get dissuaded. There are resources out there. Come join the Discord channel, ask your questions, and I hope to see you there. So thank you very much.